Welcome back to another episode of I Am I. I am I, and I am just chilling in the hot tub in Santa Barbara, California. I have the bubbles off so you can hear what I'm saying. Alright, that's not true. I have the bubbles off because I couldn't figure out how to turn them on, but you know, I'm chilling at the Best Western. It's not like I'm sitting in the bungalows or something like that, you know? So, I'm out here. Gonna be chilling, celebrating my birthday today. Well, it's not my birthday today. Well, it's my birthday today, but it's not my birthday today. It's my birthday today while you're watching this, but it's not my birthday today while I'm making this. So I'm like existing in two places at once, by location. See, so this isn't even real. This is just an illusion. Oh, what an amazing segue into talking about what is real versus what is unreal. So, I've mentioned before in a couple of vlogs that we have this idea, the electromagnetic spectrum, which is only what we can visibly see is only a very small portion of what reality is, right? It's only what our senses can actually perceive and what our senses can actually pick up. So, that's a nice scientific way of seeing that there's actually a lot more to reality than we can perceive at all with our physical senses, right? With our ability to see and to taste and to touch and to feel and to hear, right? So that just shows us that there is a lot more to reality than we're even aware of. Hello. From a Vedantic perspective, what we consider to be real is anything that is unchanging. From I got thrown. People scare me. I'm scared of people. Okay, so from a Vedantic perspective, anything that is changing and moving is unreal. Anything that is unchanging is real, right? So when you look at it from that perspective, then anything in our lives that we really know, in this physical reality, in our emotions, in our thoughts, in our bodies, is all considered to be unreal, okay? So when we look at it and we realize that if any of this is unreal, then it's all just an illusion, right? Now, spiritual teaching is something like, well, you could say, well, that's even part of this world, right? The writings and the scripture and all the teachings, and we're hearing and we're listening to it. It's all part of this reality, and that is true. And the metaphor that is given, it's like a lion in a dream, right? Vedanta, which means the end of all knowledge, is the lion in a dream. So when you're dreaming, and that lion attacks you, it pounces on you, jumps on you, wakes you up into reality, right? Or what we consider to be reality now, which really isn't reality, it's really just a dream and we haven't woken up. And that's what these spiritual teachings do, is they wake us up into reality. So, in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 62 and 63, there's some real science, some real technology of spirituality. And it describes it to us how we get lost. So it starts with an identification with the senses, right? So when we get lost in the real world, in this beautiful world, right? It's not that this world is bad or anything like that. It's about our relationship to it. So when we get lost in our senses, when our senses come first, when we think that we can find happiness anywhere in the outside world, so we come into contact with something in the world, a lover, food, a hot tub, whatever it is, right? And we think, oh, that's gonna make me happy, right? So it starts with thought flow towards a particular object, right? And the thought flow towards a particular object, that starts leading us towards attachment, because we start thinking, oh, that's gonna make me happy. That's gonna pull me out of something. That'll make me happy. So that leads to attachment. I want that, something in the outside world to make me happy, right? So then we get into attachment. From attachment, desire. That's where it comes. It's attachment to it. I say, yes, that's something I can see. It's always pretty. It's shiny object. And now I'm going to want that to make my life better. And that will be the answer to my problem, right? So that becomes desire. Now anger is just a modification of desire. So the next step is anger. Because when you want something and something thwarts you from getting it, that results in anger. So the next step comes into anger. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. I mean, that whole thing is all just Eastern philosophy, right? This is where it's coming from. So then anger is going to lead to delusion. And this is where we no longer see what is real, and we are no longer aware, we are no longer present in reality. Because we get angry, we don't see, you know what it's like when you get angry, you're not seeing clearly, you're not thinking clearly, everything's gone, right? And that's all the way down the line. Delusion then leads to the loss of memory, is how it's translated. But it's basically the loss of understanding between what is right and wrong. Now, I don't believe necessarily in right and wrong, but it's all within context. So right here, it's like the healthiest thing to do, what's going to be the most amount of good for the most amount of people, you and the most amount of people, right? So that you go to the loss of memory. Then from the loss of memory, you go to the loss of spiritual intelligence, your intellect, knowledge of what to do. And once you lose that spiritual intelligence, you're fucked, right? So it all starts from our connection to our senses, to the physical reality that we understand it to be, which, as I've said in the beginning, is a very small portion of what it actually is reality, right? So when we understand that we are not this physical body, we are not this mind and its emotions, we are not even the logical intellect, that when we start first from a place outside of all of that, when we connect to that space, which is self or God, higher power, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, right? When you connect to that place first, that's when we recognize that none of this is real, that it's all an illusion. So in a very practical application in our lives too, we can see that when we start having panic attacks or things start getting out of control, or we think, you know, we're late somewhere, like very simply, we're late to work, or we're late to this, or we're worried about the danger that is going to happen, we can understand that the emotional response that we're having to the situation, regardless of what the situation is or what the outcome of the situation may be, the emotional outcome that we're having, or the emotional response that we're having, is completely separate from the outcome of what's going to happen. So if you see that you start getting, you know, this fear response, and your heart rate starts going up, and you start freaking out, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be late. It's like, what's the worst that's really going to happen? 90% of the time, there's not really any repercussions anyway, that somebody might be a little disappointed in you, and that little child inside of you is going to be upset. When it's really, that's not real. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. Not if you're connected to some divine nature inside of yourself. What the hell's the difference about that, right? We can get out of our own way, you know? Sometimes there are really serious outcomes of something that's going to happen, and that is when we have to give over even more. And if we're doing this work on a regular basis, then we're prepared. Our mental stability has really been stabilized, and then we're able to handle those deeper, darker situations, so we can understand that even then, that none of that's real. And it's not about disassociation, right? It's about associating again with that deeper place inside of ourselves, that more subtle place that is beyond everything, beyond the thoughts, beyond the body, beyond the emotions, behind all of that. That is heaven, detached from all this worldly nonsense. We still engage with the worldly nonsense. We still chill in the hot tub in Santa Barbara. But I don't need a hot tub to make me happy. I don't need a hot tub to make me happy. I don't care. I don't even need a hot tub. I guess I'll have to make my own bubbles, you know what I mean? What? Too much?